Oh, the Pistons won again. Today they played the Brooklyn Nets, who just beat Utah, but finished a road trip on a kind of a sour note. The Pistons, who have the best record in the East and second best record in all the NBA, uh, the game kind of started kind of weird. There was a technical because there was the referee, the jump ball is kind of a joke. Referees don't know how to throw the ball up. So after two attempts, they called, I think, a foul on Duran. And before any time ran off the clock, I believe JB Bickerstaff was saying, don't pay attention to him, White. Don't pay attention to him, White. In other words, his team was wearing white jerseys, and they gave him a technical for that. And referees are just, I don't know, they're trying to set a tone or whatever they're trying to do. But they had, Brooklyn had 1 point before there was any time taken off the clock. They shot a free throw. And the game was actually kind of close for a little bit, 34-33. And then they shut them down. And you want to hear some crazy numbers? 130-77. That's a 53-point loss. And think about that. It was 34-33 at one point. So they scored, what is it, 34? They outscored him 96 to 40. Wow. Of course, Cade had 21 points. Duran had 18 points. Everybody contributed. And I almost said except for one person, but I'll get back to that in a second. That Asar Thompson was in the game for 25 minutes, and he was a plus 43 points in 25 minutes. Think about that. And I think it was Duran was number two at 42 points for about the same amount of time. So the starters didn't really play the full game, of course. And one thing that concerns me, even though we win by 53, is Ron Holland just feels he has the liberty to keep jacking up threes. He shot a couple air balls, and I think, I don't know what his numbers were. He's probably at least 0 for 5. I think probably about 0 for 7. And trade deadline is Thursday. And I just have this bad feeling, folks. One of my favorite players, and it's just the Pistons. It's sad in one sense because when him and Duran, I'm talking about Jaden Ivey. I love his love for God. I love God. And he was exciting. He's so fast. And it seemed like him, and when Cade was hurt and I thought they were tanking. Shh, don't say nothing. I think they were tanking because every time they were doing good, they seemed to get pulled and sat for a while. They were tanking to get the best opportunity to get Victor Wembanyama. And I don't blame them for that, if that's what happened. If you see Victor Wembanyama, imagine him on this team. Oh. Anyways, they'd probably have a championship already last year. Anyways, but Jaden Ivey got hurt last year, and he was making all these strides, and it just looks like he's moving around a little slow, but he can hit the threes better than basically everybody on the team. And I know Robinson's there to shoot threes, but he's been off quite often too. And it's like, but it just kind of, he's getting, Ivy's getting lost in a shuffle a little bit. There's a lot of between his injury, and I think the injury slowed him down a little bit. Um, I hope he sticks. I personally would love to have him on this team because I think as time goes on, he had a big break. He was really doing good before that that leg got hurt. But Dennis Jenkins has played very well in his, kind of in his role. And one guy that keeps blowing my mind, they don't play him. They don't play him. They don't play him. And whenever they bring him in, this guy just looks all world. He kind of has that Joe Dumars kind of and Barry Sanders kind of humbleness, but confidence in a sense. And I'm talking about Marcus Sasser. If I'm if I'm a Lakers or if I'm a team that needs one more piece of, I would start that guy. And JB Bickerstaff might end up playing. It's crazy how he pushes a button, but we have so many guards that can play very at a high level. Um, and as much as I don't like to see Holland Brick just shooting those threes, my problem with even in a blowout is you want to play the way you play if the game is close. You don't want to learn any bad habits. And unfortunately, when the games should be pushed to a blowout, by him missing those threes that he normally hits when say we're up by 12, not 40, we're up by 12. I want a guy that if he's open, like Tobias Harris or Cade or anybody else, I don't even want Isaiah Stewart shooting the threes. And to his credit, even though he's I think, a much better 3-point shooter than Holland, to Isaiah Stewart's credit, or to JB Bickerstaff, or both credit, they understand that Stewart's more needed down low, getting rebounds and fighting for second shots than to be jacking threes. And we have probably we're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams. And there's a guy named Malik Beasley that might be available, but Ivy, if he can stay with the Pistons and with the trade deadline, and you just kind of get this feeling that he's playing a different way because he's been mentioned in trade talks. Yeah, it's just hard. He's a very thoughtful, caring individual, and it's gotta bother you. I know it's a business, but it's gotta bother you. And they didn't. The Nets didn't have Porter Jr., Michael Porter Jr., and there's a lot of talk of him getting traded. So, when you're the number two, when you're the number one team in the East, and you're the number two team in the NBA, I don't think you should do a trade just to do a trade. Um, if you get a break-even trade where both teams win, I don't want that. I want somebody like Markkanen for some draft picks, somebody proven for some draft picks that's not proven. Because when you get this good, it's going to be hard to get into the lineup now, as opposed to 3 years ago. We had not even close to a deep team like we have now. We have probably the deepest team in the NBA, and I don't see OKC enough to. I know they're deep too, so I watched the game, actually the whole game, by actually knowing the score beforehand, and I don't normally ever watch a game after that, but I wanted to see what happened and how they did it. And I'm like, when it was 34-33, I'm like, I hope it wasn't the other way around. But incredible game in the sense their defense was just swarming. And I watched that game, and I watched it from the Brooklyn broadcast. And one thing that I didn't hear them talk about, and I don't hear enough people talking about it, is we're on the last few days before they name this year's Hall of Fame inductees. And they got the people nominated. I think Robert Ory is up for nomination. Bill Laimbeer is up for nomination. And if you want to, Reggie Miller was having a conversation with Dan Patrick, thinking that Robert Ory should be in before Laimbeer. And Reggie Miller said he had, he's got check his points. He thought that Robert Ory scored more points than Laimbeer. And Robert Ory didn't have to go down and fight the biggest guys in the NBA night in, night out. He stayed around the perimeter and shot threes, and he wasn't, he didn't, let me just run down the list of accomplishments that Bill Laimbeer has. And if he doesn't make the Hall of Fame, I'm going to blame two things: the voters, but also I don't see enough of the Detroit media pushing forward this. And they should be. Woodward Sports. This should be something that they have a lot of voice. Instead of talking about the Lions day in, day out, or the Tigers day in, day out, let's talk about a guy that came and brought us 2 championships, helped bring us 2 championships as an NBA player, and then 3 more as a WNBA GM and coach. I believe that he belongs in the Hall of Fame for both his playing and also his coaching. He could be in there for 2 different, like the musicians. If Tom Petty had his own solo career, then he did the Traveling Wilburys. He's in there for 2 things. If you look at 2 separate, his playing career, his basketball playing days, he won a high school championship. He went to the Final Four in college. He went to Italy, pulled down 14 rebounds, scored 22 points a game. He did that for 1 year before joining the NBA. And I believe he played in 13 seasons. He only missed 9 games, folks. One of those was because of a suspension, which halted his Ironman streak of 685 games. Bill was dependable. His teammates could depend on him. You didn't see him getting called for illegal screens. They were he was as fundamentally as a sound center as you can imagine, boxing out. And they call him dirty. And I say this, that the whole NBA at that time, it was a slugfest. And he just happened to be the center of the Pistons that wasn't the flashy Lakers or the legendary Celtics or high-flying Michael Jordan. The Pistons were a different team than all those. They had to battle every step of the way. They weren't as technically talented. Kareem's all. If you look at the front line, Kareem, James Worthy, and Magic Johnson, who's 6'8", even though he's a point guard, he's still front line to me. He went down and got rebounds. He battled everybody down low. Those are top 75 players of all time. Kareem and Magic probably top 10, top 5 maybe. But somehow, Bill Laimbeer, as a center, has a playoff winning record against both Magic, Bird, and Jordan. That's crazy. He's only one of 19 players that ever played in the NBA, and there's about 5,000 people that have played in the NBA. He's only one of 19 players to have grabbed 10,000 rebounds at least and scored at least 10,000 points. He's got more points and more rebounds than Willis Reed, who's in the Hall of Fame. He won 2 titles during the 1980s, and there's Moses Malone and everybody else that was out there. You know, Kareem's 7'2", can jump higher. But it was Bill Laimbeer who pulled down more defensive rebounds than anybody. Think about that. He shot over 83% from the free throw line. You couldn't foul him. And he shot outside 90% of the time, yet he has a better field goal percentage than Michael Jordan, who spent the first part of his career dunking on everybody. But when the Pistons put him on the wood, to Michael Jordan's credit, he ended up learning how to shoot outside really well. Really, really well. And Bill Laimbeer actually has a better field goal percentage than Jordan as well. And 3-point percentage, big man, 6'11", he's neck and neck with him. Jordan has him by a fraction, like a small percentage on it. 685 games. He's a 4-time All-Star, 2-time NBA. He's a 2-time Coach of the Year in the WNBA. Once again, he won 3 titles there. 5 titles altogether, folks, for the city of Detroit. Pretty impressive. Think we should be making a big news about that. I'd love to hear his acceptance speech too. I don't know. What do you think?